Good evening and welcome to another edition of our live Magpie Circle podcast show. Stell and I are just about home. Hopefully, those of you who travelled down to the Kent coast are all back now. It won't be a long show tonight because I think Stell and I will both be in bed by about 8:15. Great result. One of the debates, and I know our flock will be keen to quiz Mr. Stallard on his previous assertion that third was not possible anymore. I guess we're all getting a little bit excited that we might only have to play one playoff game before going to the London Arena. Those of you who made the trip down to Dover last night, Ian Bircham says we all need medals, and that was before all motorways between Kent and Nottinghamshire were shut at various points. Tell us what time you got back in. I'm told various coaches had to stop and get a replacement driver. Did anyone get to bed before 3 o'clock that was down to Kent? I was in bed at 10:15. That was as much to do with the fact it was a 2-mile walk for me downhill to the Dover Travel Lodge. Saw a few Notts fans at Dover Priory Station this morning en route back. 3 points in the bag. Off to Aldershot on Saturday. Home return against Dover on Monday. Mark Stallard, delighted you can join us as we wait to hear our flock tell us about some nightmare journeys. What time did you get back with Charlie?
Yeah, we it was a nightmare journey. I got back in my house about 3 o'clock. Where I meet Charlie, we met in Grantham and went A1 way and diversions and goodness knows what. Yeah, so it was like wacky races coming back last night. Nightmare. I mean, thank God we're not going to hopefully ever do that again. We're going to have to go down to Dover, but yeah, it was long. It was a long trip back, but 3 points, good result. You know, points in the bag always makes it easier.
Yeah, I've not seen an official away crowd. I estimated it about somewhere between, I would have said 200 and 300, which, to be fair, is a fantastic effort. And I think there was kind of this embattled philosophy that whatever happens, we're going to get there and see the game played. Look, as always, I'm never too worried about performance. 3 goals, 3 points, all that matters. I think, to be fair to them, given that they have absolutely nothing to play for, that with their limitations, they stuck at it quite well. I thought the keeper, I don't know where they've got him from or whether he's a trialist, I thought he did all right. I thought he did all right for them.
Yeah, I mean, great. Well, without the keeper in the first 15 minutes, it'd have been 3-0, I think. Yeah, he I don't know where he'd come from. No, Andre, wasn't it? Alexi Andre. But he made some important saves. You know, they did. They had the right attitude, you know, really, for a team that's been cut adrift for a long time, really, realistically not had anything to play for all season other than sort of personal sort of little goals and things like that. I think Andy Hessenthaler has had a difficult job, obviously, down there, just to keep them motivated and to keep them right. And as the season's gone on, and now they've had a bit of a couple of them bizarre results, didn't we? When we saw the 6-5 against Wrexham, you know, 3-2 just in the previous game before Notts against Chesterfield. But I think that goes to as a bit of a feather in Notts' cap that they looked like a team with 0 points. You know, despite the 12-point deduction, they didn't have a shot against Notts last night, and it was I think professional was the sort of word I kept coming back to on the radio. It was a professional performance. They had to be patient. They created chances early on, didn't take them. Some good saves from the keeper, but they absolutely dominated the game, dominated possession. Didn't try to force it. Didn't panic. Obviously, you know, when you're playing against the bottom team and then there's a man sent off in the second half, you're under overwhelming favourites to go on and win the game comfortably. But they did that, and they didn't allow the pressure to build of not scoring in the first half. So, yeah, credit to them. It was a professional performance.
Yes, all good. We get a few comments coming in, not as many as normal. I don't know how many of you are fatigued or in bed. Duncan Conway says, good evening, everyone. Another 3 points in the bag. Chris Gosling, evening, Paul and Stell. Very happy with the result and performance. Paul Huskerson, my son got home same time as I got up for work, 4 a.m. Max Seth, evening all, a very long trip back on the coach, but 100% worth it. Chris Gosling, I have to admit, I found the humour around the pre-match music very funny. Yeah, I thought that was all right. And I know 1 or 2 people were trying to make perhaps a little bit more of it, but look, you know, it's or the music or the water-linked songs that were being belted out. Yes, Mr. Lafbury, I've met him a few times. He's obviously decided to create his name and promote his own chauffeur services. Lafbury's executive chauffeuring, 3 a.m. Crazy diversion via the North Circular Road through Barking. Mr. Lafbury, I know, is responsible at times for taking Alexander and Christoph. If you see a private limo, it's probably Mr. Lafbury with Alexander and Christoph in the back. Max Seth, because we beat Dover 3-0 away, do you expect us to better that scoreline at Meadow Lane on a much better surface? Adi Clark, evening all, surely with a strong and confident finish to the season. 3rd place is a real possibility. I wondered, Adi, how long it would take before we bring that one up, given Stell's previous thoughts on our ability to finish 3rd. We got 4 games to go. We're in 5th. Let's debate that now. So I think a couple of weeks ago, you were, let's just say, sceptical that 3rd was even possible. Has it changed at all, your opinion?
It's changed. I'm less skeptical, but I'm still skeptical.
Right.
I'm less skeptical, but I'm less skeptical based on the fact we've won 6 out of the last 8, 19 out of 24 points. That obviously helps. I said, I think we had 7 games left when I said I thought 3rd had gone, and I said, but I also said we have to win them all to give ourselves a chance. Now I would still pretty much stand by that, although 3rd's looking less gone than it did 4 games ago. There is an outside chance, but again, we're reliant on Halifax slipping up, which they have done over the last couple of games. For the next 3 games, I think they've got Yeovil, Eastleigh, and Aldershot. And again, all games you'd expect them to win, but at this time of the season, anything can happen. Again, I think that the same principle remains, is that Notts have got to win their games, and that is all they can take care of. If they win all the games, we get to 85 points, and we put ourselves right in the mix of 3rd. I'm going to stick to my guns. My tipping is usually rubbish, but I'm going to stick to my guns and say I still don't think we will get 3rd, but I hope I'm wrong again.
Yeah, I mean, I probably tend to agree with you. I don't think we will get 3rd, with my sort of head ruling my heart. But I think it's more a challenge for us to take care of our own business. I just don't see us winning 7 on the spin, if I'm honest with you. I think that takes a lot of doing, irrespective of who you play. I know a lot of our fans think they can do it. I just think there will somewhere along the way be a spanner in the works. And I think Halifax may well drop a point or 2 here and there, but I don't really think we can afford to drop much, if anything. We shall see. I don't know what all your various thoughts are. Jonathan Smith, a good tangential argument here, like Liverpool. Not so going for the quadruple, winning 4 games in a row. Chris Gosling, it'll take a massive favourable win to get 3rd, but at least a home quarter-final tie is in our own hands. We need to follow it up on Saturday. I think this kind of new playoff system has kind of created a new dynamic in the National League style over the last 2 or 3 seasons that it's been in, a couple of seasons. I mean, is it a really big advantage to only have to play 1 playoff game and it to be at home than playing an extra game, not having such a long layoff, but being away? Kev Nicholson, I think, kind of said it doesn't make any difference. Historically, you can look at teams that creep into playoffs and then do well. Or do you subscribe to the view it's pretty damn important for Notts, given if there's a question mark, it would normally be away from home. Probably the same with most teams. How important, how big a difference can it make being third or fourth or fifth?
Well, I think it does make a difference. I think it makes quite a difference. Now, you say big. How big do we talk? Look, it's the difference. You look at any team's difference between the home form and their away form, and generally, home form is always better. Therefore, get yourself a home tie. You've got more chance statistically of winning the game. You put yourself in the box seat in a one game. And I reiterate what I've said before. I'm quite a big fan of this setup of the non-league playoffs. I think it rewards performances over 44 in this season, but it rewards those that finish higher over 46 games, which is exactly the reason we play leagues over 46 or 44 games, is because you want the most consistent, best team over a period of time to get rewards, whether that's promotion places or obviously then playoff places. In the league, and we're not going back on the lottery argument, but
absolutely not.
In the league, there's no real benefit to finishing third or sixth in them divisions where the 3 to 6 are the playoff places. There's no real benefit from finishing third and just missing out to you could be 20 points behind and finishing sixth. You then, if you're in form and you can play well for 3 games, 2 legs of a semi and a final, you can get promoted. Again, going back to Mike, we did it with Bradford, obviously against Notts in the final. But so how much do I think it benefits you? I think it's a massive benefit, but it's a massive benefit with the caveat of that being within a 3-game season or a 3-game cup competition.
Yeah, wouldn't disagree. Max Seth, I still think we should factor Solihull into the situation. They're 2 points ahead of us still, so they may even sneak into it themselves. No Walsh. How would we all feel if Ardley knocked Leeds out of the Notts out of the playoffs? Chris Gosling replies the same as if anyone else knocked us out. No. Chris also makes a point. It's crazy that the quarters of these playoff games, i.e. the first ones, are played about 10 days after the season finishes, then the semis 3 days later. Yeah, I didn't notice that, Chris. I think it's to do with trying to squeeze in the trophy final. And of course, not knowing who will be in it, but there's a realistic chance other teams involved in the playoffs would be. So I think with the FA, the National League decided to put the trophy final in as soon as possible after the end of the season. But that, of course, meant the playoffs then have to come after that. And I think they then decided to obviously cram those in and get the playoff final in the first week of June. No Nick Raman, I think form is as important as venue, e.g. Grimsby were unbeaten before we beat them. Let's just go back to last night. We're surprised. I mean, clearly it was a rotational issue, giving a game to Slocum, bringing 1 or 2 players that have not had much game time. Any of that surprise you, Stel, or you think a good use of giving players starting 60 to 90 minutes gets them in tune? We're not that far off from the end of playoffs. You pick injuries up. Good use of rotation?
Yeah, I mean, they got the 3-0 win, dominated the game. So, yeah, it turns out it was a good use. Not the biggest surprise, I suppose, was Sam Slocum playing. You think about resting players, you don't normally assume the goalkeeper is one of them, but I've absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. I suppose the most interesting thing we were going to look at is who was going to play in place of Kyle Wootton. We knew Kyle wasn't going to play, and I suppose from my point of view, looking at who have we got as a natural centre forward, as in centre forward playing up there against 2 centre halves, I thought next cab off the rank would be Cairo Mitchell. Even though he's not had a lot of game time at all, I thought, well, he's probably going to be the replacement. And then you just shuffle things around accordingly. He didn't go that way, and Cairo didn't get any minutes. And Ruben went up there, and sort of we had that rotational bit up front with the 4, where although Ruben was the centre forward, if you like, he was dropping deep. Aaron Nemane was playing through the middle sometimes, and sometimes Cal would play out. And there was that rotational fluidity that we talk about in modern systems nowadays, where you see Man City and Liverpool and all the top clubs. You're not pigeonholed. You're not stuck. If you play on the right, you play on the right. You play on the left, you play on the left. So they can go wherever they want within the system, not free of will. It's all with reason and based off balancing the team off. But I thought that worked well. Whether it would work as well against a bit more of a challenge, like we're going to get in the playoffs, we'll wait and see. But again, if Kyle Wootton isn't available for any game, you've got to come up with your plan B. And that, for me, was the chance to that was going to be the plan B. I was thinking Cairo Mitchell might come in.
Me too.
It wasn't. And that looks like that's going to be the plan B. And it worked fantastically well last night. So if I think the reason for making any of the changes is with an eye to the playoffs, giving lads minutes, trying things, trying to get them all so they've got, not been out the team for 12 games and then maybe get called on in the playoffs. So he wouldn't have picked anything or suggested anything or picked a formation that isn't something that he's going to have up his sleeve for if the situation calls for it in the playoffs. So that looks like the plan B for if Kyle Wootton isn't available for any of them playoff games.
You're the ex-player and the master tactician. I lose track of some of the new phraseologies. Is that then the first time Notts have played the false nine?
Yeah, it's certainly the first time. I mean, again, if that's what we're going to call it, false nine. Yeah, that's the modern parlance, obviously. Yeah, it's the first time I can sort of recall that, because when we've played that system with Kyle Wootton up there, obviously Kyle generally stays central. Yeah. He does a lot of work for the team, of course, and you'll find yourself out the right, and the left. But pretty generally, he's the central striker, and he's not dropping deep and allowing somebody to go in beyond him for any period of time. Last night was the most fluid I've seen that front four, and and quite rightly as well. Sometimes you pick your teams, your formations, your systems based on the opposition that you're playing against. Dover, bottom of the league, you can have that experiment with a fair degree of confidence that we're not going to come unstuck. And we have got good players, a good squad. It wasn't like we were putting in an untried and untested sort of 16, 17-year-old or some, 5 players who haven't played for 3 or 4 months. So, it was a controlled decision, and it worked out perfectly.
One or two of our flock have been asking. Lippy Jane said, what about Vincent? Surprised he's not had more game time recently or not?
Yeah, a little bit. I thought he might be one who got a bit of game time last night. Me and Charlie on the sort of mammoth journey down were speculating as to what the team would be and the changes. And yeah, he got quite a mention. I think we both thought that he would be involved, having been out for a bit. But again, it's a strong squad. It's a strong squad, and when he went with the 2 holding midfield players to give you that basis, and even I was on the radio last night saying about it. Half time, maybe I wondered if it crossed his mind to change one of the holding midfield players, to not have 2 sitting and put Zach Brunt on, maybe to just change the dynamic of the midfield, because we were dominating possession so much that Dover didn't really offer much. I didn't think we needed the 2 holding midfield players, but he didn't. And it's Ed Francis, who would have been the one I would have probably looked to change, who got the first goal, the all-important goal. Whether he meant it or not, it's a different conversation.
I don't think I was behind it. I don't think he meant it.
I'm fairly certain he didn't mean it, but we've got to give every player their due, and I fully expect him to come out in tomorrow's press conference and say he absolutely meant it. I like Jack Colbeck from Forest the other week. So, yeah, but again, credit to Ian Birchley, and it's not because I wasn't suggesting that change because I'm one of this mindset. If you play 2 holding midfield players, that's a defensive formation. It isn't. The reason you play 2 holding midfield players is if you've got really attacking fullbacks, you've got that 4, the 2 centre halves and the 2 midfielders in front to give you that block of solidity, if you like, in the centre of the pitch. and that can allow you a little bit of a liberty with both fullbacks going. So it's not necessarily defensive to have two holding midfield players. It can be. It can be, of course it can, but not necessarily. And certainly last night you'd look against Dover and go, two holding midfield players. Correct. I suspect the Neil Ardley critics, when he was in charge, would have said, typical Neil Ardley being defensive against the bottom of the table team. But it doesn't have to be defensive. So, it worked well in the end. They were patient. They got the result. It could have been a lot more comfortable. And in answer to the question, whoever put it in about, do we expect more and the same result and more goals on Monday? Yes, I absolutely do.
Okay, there you go. Max Seth says, I thought Ed Francis was very good last night, made progressive passes, put his foot in, and positioning was spot on. Kieran May, we got the job done, and on another night would have scored more, albeit for the Dover keeper making some excellent saves. Carry on in this form, we will be with a right chance of going up. Kel Foster, Francis deserved that goal, been unlucky all season. A.D. Clark, big debate. What song would Stell put on the playlist against Dover on Monday? See, I am useless on music. Yeah, so I don't know, all the bloody things, but please feel free. We'll see whether Stell can come up with one. Everybody else, come up with your suggested songs for a playlist and we'll send them off to the club. I'll send them to Nick and we'll see whether the stadium announcer will be able to incorporate it into his playlist. Come on, Stowe, you like your music.
You are, yeah. I'm just trying to think. We did this last night, actually. Like I said, the lack of sleep. I think there's obviously it's something about going down into, but there's Beck, Loser. I mean, that could go straight to Jim Parmenter, couldn't it? That the way he's been. Yeah, I'm sure there's a fair few. But we said this with Nick. We were sat right next to Nick Richardson, the Notts media guy, or the head of media, and we were saying, you ought to put it out to the fans to get a playlist. And I don't know. I mean, I think they should, but I think Dover have started it, so it's only right to have a bit of banter and let's have a riposte on Monday. I don't know whether they're going to do that, whether they're going to try and rise above that or not. I don't know, but I think. All's fair in love and football, isn't it? So it might be the last chance we get to see them. When will I see you again? We could play them and going down to National League North, but South.
I'm all for it.
Few songs, I'm sure.
Notts fans around me, no one was, oh blimey, it's not, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. All a bit of banter. So if you know your music, any suggested songs? Phil Lafbury, sorry, Paul, forgive me. Business profile wasn't intentional. That is Lafbury's executive VIP chauffeuring or whatever he's called. See you at Aldershot. Resting a few players worked well last night and gave valuable game time to fringe players. Chris Gosling, I don't think we should play tit for tat on the music front. We are better than that. Chris B, down status quo. I vaguely remember that one. Phil Lafbury, this might be actually not a good one to play. You're an Embarrassment by Madness. I'm not sure about that one. That would form, I am sure, part of Andy Hessenthaler's final words at 5-3, wouldn't it? Yes, right, okay. Music. Oh, they're all coming in now. Nick G, heaven knows you're miserable now, says Inspector 71. They're all coming in. Aaron Nemane. Or Nemane, I'm not exactly sure how I should find out how you pronounce his name so we get it right. Aaron. A lot of fans have been calling for him to get a bit more game time. It's been limited. He's had a few injuries here and there. They're not got starting place. He's banged a few goals in. He's probably on his longest run of starting games. What do you think he brings? And do you think he's in a better position getting into the business end of the season to hold down a regular first team slot?
Well, I mean, he's certainly done well when he's come in, hasn't he? 2 goals in the last 3 games. What he adds is pace. He really offers a direct threat of pace, which, for all the good football Notts have, I think they've always been looking, and Ian Birchnell, since he's come in, has always been looking to add pace. It's such a vital, asset to have in a team. All over the pitch, defensively as well as offensively. And we've seen Jayden Richardson with his pace down the right-hand side. What a threat that can be. But it's got to be utilised. It's not just about play. With plenty of players who got pace, didn't know how to use it to affect games. But I think in the last 2 or 3 games, I think he's come in, done really well. Ever since he came on at Torquay, at half time, in that he was probably the only bright light, if you like, that came out of that day. And again, credit to Ian Birchnell. You come on, you make an impact for 45 minutes. You keep your place in the team. He scores a goal. He scores another goal in the next game. You're in, and this is what, when we talk about all the rotation and changing of players, chopping and changing, that's the way you keep them players that have not been in the team. That's the way you keep them interested and keep them on their toes, is when they know that when they get in the team, that if they perform, it's not just a token gesture of, well, I've given you a game, get yourself back to the reserves or get yourself back to training for the next 6 weeks. It's if you perform, you're going to stay in the team or you've got a chance. Here's your chance. Here's your starting shirt. I say it all the time. It's always the same. It's like doing auditions or anything for whatever. Once you're starting, the ball is in your court. You can give a performance. You can represent yourself. You can enhance your CV there and then in that game that other people that aren't playing, nobody should. Well, I say you can do sometimes, but nobody should enhance their CV by not playing. It's only on the pitch that you get to prove what you can do, prove your worth, satisfy your ego and go, yeah, I told you, I knew I was a good player and here's why, and I've shown it. It's all right talking about it. Every player that doesn't play, and Aaron Nemane a great example because he's not played a lot this season. So there'll have been times throughout the months that he's not been playing that I want to start. I want to start. And he'll be desperately unhappy that he doesn't, like any normal player would do. But he doesn't then sulk about it. He's obviously kept his head down in training, done the right things, tried to keep pushing. And when he's got his chance in the first team, he's taken it, or he's certainly taking it at this moment in time. And it's his position, really, to lose. Same can be said for Frank Vincent earlier on in the season. The same can be said for Eli Sam this season. There's been examples, more than one, where players who've been seemingly out in the cold come in and then all of a sudden they're first team players because they're performing well. And that sends a message throughout the whole squad that everybody has got a chance, but you've got to take it when you get your chance.
Is this for a bit of optimism? Athenian Pie, let us know where you're flying in from. Bravely booked the flight for the trip to London. Either that or I am celebrating the Jubilee. There's a bit of confidence for you. Right, now I've got loads of, I don't even know half these songs myself, but I'm sure you all do. Dale Pike, always look on the bright side of life. Andy Easom, Way Down from Elvis. The Rolling Stones, It's All Dover Now. Andy Easom, Rock the Boat, Don't Rock the Boat Dover from the Hughes Corporation. Tragedy from the Bee Gees, to which Inspector 71 replies, God, I remember listening to Tragedy when Notts got relegated in 1984 when it was coming out and about the first time. What else have we got? For Whom the Bell Tolls, says Andy Eason, another Bee Gees. Chris Jordan, Something by the Beautiful, brackets, National League, close brackets, South. There you go. That's quite a clever one. Something by the Beautiful South, National League South. Lots coming in. Nick G from Inspector 71, Heaven Knows You're Miserable Now. Not sure if I said that one already. Ian Birchnell, who only had to go back to Coventry. He got home back 10 minutes past 1. He did well. I'm not sure what route he took. Back in the office at 7 o'clock, but worth the effort. Max Seth says, playing with a front four is much better for Nemane than playing at wing back. Aaron's taken his chance and he should be credited for it. Similar story to Eli earlier in the season. Steph Milek, evening all, still buzzing off last night. Can't wait for my trip to Aldershot. What else have we got? Max Seth, either Stell's reading my messages or me and him are synced up. I'm not sure Stell is technologically advanced to open the message boards, Chris. So, no. Max, so you must be synced up. Nick G, can we not just play the goals from last night on the big screens with music by Aha, Sun Always Shines on TV. Steph Milek, yeah, we've had that one. Ian Birchinall, I took the M25, M11, A14, M1. I work in Coventry, but I live in Meacham. There we go. It's quite a broad spectrum there. Serious and not so serious. Now then, if my mathematics is correct, which it probably ain't, I did get an A level in maths and statistics, believe it or not, a long time ago from Forest Fields College. Aldershot got, and you will correct me here, Stel, Aldershot could have guaranteed their safety last night and were guaranteeing it until the 88th minute at Bromley.
Yeah,
you're nodding, so hopefully I've got this right.
Yep.
Bromley equalised with 2 minutes to go, which now means Kings Lynn can still overhaul Aldershot. So if my maths is right, Aldershot need one more win, correct, Stel?
That's right, yeah.
So it would have been, presumably, it would have been a lot nicer if they were mathematically safe, a la Fulham playing Forest. As it is, Aldershot will be still going for a result Saturday. It may be unlikely, but any pro, any head coach, manager will be telling you, you've got to get the job done. Correct?
Yep, absolutely right, Paul. That maths and stats A level has not gone to waste. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, up until 88 minutes, as it turned out, they would have been safe. And look, of course, you'd rather play against teams that have got nothing really to play for, but it can work both ways. You know, it might add a little bit of extra pressure on Aldershot. I mean, they're 8 points clear. 8 points clear of Kings Lynn. Kings Lynn have got 3 games left, so they'll know the maths. Kings Lynn winning 3 on the spin last 3 games. They need to not get 2 points. So, look, it would have been better, obviously, if they were mathematically safe. I think there would have been a sort of maybe a subconscious easing off. But you've still got to be right. It's still about knots. It doesn't make any difference, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of if knots are right, and as they were last night, mentally at it, physically at it, then their football wins the game. You know, their quality wins you the game. Not going to be easy. No game is easy. But if you're right, they've got the quality to beat Aldershot. That's why Aldershot 4th bottom. That's why they're still not mathematically safe in this division and not so up the top end looking for bigger prizes. So, small differences, but yeah, it would have been. I think it would have been slightly better. But it's still in Notts' hands. If Notts go down there and they're right and they're at it, I still think they win the game.
Dale Pike, I was trying to remember the results and can't remember us winning at Aldershot too often. Dale Pike, the 2 times we've been to Aldershot, we have lost. Not a good ground for us recently. Chris Jordan Yates says spot on. Kings Lynn were going down until that goal from Bromley. I think what will interest me on Saturday. Look, clearly Aldershot have been a relegation threatened team, been on a poor run for quite a long period of time. But I think it will be a much more serious test than Dover, given Dover were relegated God knows how many weeks ago. You know, they've just reached 0 points or whatever it is. And I guess the question mark about Notts is, particularly going into the playoffs, is being resolute, resilient. You know, I wouldn't for a minute expect us to be having, I don't know what the percentage stats were last night for possession, but you would think Notts would have been 70% or whatever it was. Aldershot are going to have a reasonable amount of the ball. And I would just be interested to see how we cope away from home with a bit more of a searching examination.
Yeah, I mean, look, the league table tells you that Dover have been cast adrift for a long time, and they are, a fair chalk, the worst team in the division.
Yes.
And there are reasons behind that. There's a lot of reasons behind that. So yes, I mean, Aldershot is going to be more of a test. Of course it is. It's going to be a proper game. Just like any others, and it's a potential banana skin, just like we've had throughout the season. Just because they're 4th bottom should give you the confidence and the belief that you're the better team, and you go there and you do the right things. The game is there for you to win. But as we've seen, you've still got to take your chances when they come. You know, if a goalkeeper has a fantastic day, or we have an off day in front of goal, then you know you can come unstuck. We know that Notts can always concede, although last night they didn't give up a shot. But we know, you know, we've got that fallibility at times to sort of switch off and allow other teams to score against us. So, of course, every game is a potential banana skin. But because we're this deep into the season, I look at Aldershot. I look at Aldershot or anybody who's fourth bottom of the table. If you don't go there full of confidence, thinking you're going to win the game, when all Notts are doing is looking above them and chasing as hard as they can, then, you know, like I say, if we do slip up, then we don't deserve third in the playoffs. Third place in the playoffs. If we slip up at places like Aldershot, we don't deserve to be maybe fourth or fifth in the playoffs. So this is the nitty gritty time of the season. It will be a tougher test. There's no two ways about it. But there's still a part-time team. You know, Notts, I expect it's all about Notts. And I think this for the remainder of the season. I said this when there were 7 games remaining. Every game it's about Notts. And I've said it largely throughout the season. There's nobody in this division that Notts can't beat if they're at it and if they're ruthless in front of goal and resolute at the other end. So, you know, I still, and again, you have to address one game at a time. So all they've got to look at from last night is Aldershot. But I don't see why they can't win 7 on the spin to end the season. They've got 3 on the spin. Say they've won 6 out of the last 8.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a hell of a response to that Stockport defeat where, you know, the illnesses and the injuries were there. It's a hell of a response, 19 points from 24. But I think they can keep it going. There's no reason why they can't do. There's nothing to look at between Aldershot away, Dover then at home, Altrincham, and then Maidenhead to say, yeah, they're all potential banana skins. Of course they are. But if they're right in all them games, I don't see anything stopping us ending the season with 7 wins and seeing where that takes us.
But it would be, irrespective of who you are playing, I think to win the last 7 would be a phenomenal achievement.
Oh, yeah.
Maxette, we've all been looking through the statistical books. We haven't won in the last 5 visits to Aldershot. Crikey. Is that right? Bloody hell. 100%. Chris Gosling, we have to be looking at 4 wins, but it's down to Notts' attitude and application, echoing your sentiments there. Ian Birchnell, do we know attendance last night, home and away? Didn't hear it, and it's not on BBC website. I've not come across anything. I doubt, you'd hope we'd push the 1,000 with the Notts fans, but there were very few Dover fans there. Chris Jordan, I don't have accurate figures, but heard 700-ish with about 175 from Notts. Some more songs from Derek Flowers. Beatles, song I'm Down, Lindsay DePaul, Rock Bottom, Gilbert O'Sullivan, Get Down, Beatles, Don't Let Me Down, Chris Jordan, Zero from the Imagine Dragons. Beyond me, that one. I know you're probably a massive fan of them, Stel.
I would say massive. I've heard of them.
I hadn't heard of them. Right. Excuse me. I am choking. One announcement. Let's get your thoughts on this, Stel, because it sparked a bit of a debate. And we're instantly now, like Athenian Pie, who's booked his flight for the weekend. And he'll either be waving his Union Jacks for the Jubilee or hopefully wearing his Notts shirt at the London Stadium. No Wembley. We're not 100% sure why. There is a story that the National League couldn't get Wembley because of a block out of concerts and all the rest of it. What's your take on the final being at the London Arena? The next best to Wembley, or are you a kind of should have had it somewhere North Midlands or whatever?
Well, again, common sense, but given the late nature of the timing of the season. You know, it's only been announced recently. I know there's had to be obviously preliminary work making sure where's available and where's not available. And as much as my first thought would be, well, you look at the playoffs, they're all northern teams pretty much. So let's get a ground in the north or the Midlands or somewhere like that, a bit more accessible for the fans. But I know when you start looking at Premier League grounds and things like that, they all rip their pitch up as soon as the Premier League season finishes and start returfing, reseeding, drainage work, all that. So it's not quite as simple as going, well, we'll just have there. But the London Stadium's available. So West Ham obviously aren't ripping their pitch up. So it makes me think that there's possibly somewhere a little bit more sensible, if you like. But look, I mean, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. I mean, I've never been to the London Stadium, I must admit. But everybody who has sort of says it's not a great venue for watching football. No. You're that far from the pitch. It doesn't create a great atmosphere. So, yeah, that doesn't recommend it. Not a great TripAdvisor review, is it, that? Look, I would have thought logic dictates you look at them teams that are in and around the playoffs and go, well, it would make far more sense logistically and be fairer to the fans to have somewhere a bit further north. But again, I don't have all the sort of facts available to me as to how much preparation has to go in, how long they've had to have London Stadium maybe on standby for this. You'd like to think that obviously they had ideas, a bit of a checklist of what was available because they knew there's going to be playoffs at the end of every season. So, it's Wembley and then we've got a reserve place on standby and then maybe somewhere else alongside that in case something happens there. But I think it's look, let's get there. We'll have a great day out. It doesn't matter what, and it'll be even better when we win and get promoted. But like I say, as long as we're celebrating, it doesn't really matter what the stadium is.
Northants Pie says Tottenham is better than Wembley. Should have gone there if they had to keep it in London. Kel Foster, they don't think of the fans, do they? There's always another motive. Max Seth, how many Notts fans do you think we might take, Stel?
Well, I would say, I would like to think 20.
Yeah, I said that. Same figure I said.
20,000. We've not been for a number of years.
Yeah.
Obviously we've never been to London Stadium. So you'd like to think 20, given that we've had good gates in the last few years at Meadow Lane, given that we were in the playoff final behind closed doors at Wembley a couple of years ago, I think there'll be 20 plus. I would think 20 to 25 would probably be my guess.
Yeah, I think it is not beyond the realms that if Wrexham were there and we were there, you would be pushing 40, maybe even 50,000. Which for a National League playoff final in London, not at Wembley, would be quite a phenomenal achievement.
Yeah, I think it would depend on who you're playing a little bit. But then you look at them other teams, and there's some quite tasty games in there, aren't there? Teams we've got a bit of previous with, teams where there's a fair bit of rivalry. So I think I would expect 20, 25. Especially when we finish the season with 7 straight wins and then 2 more or 1 more, whatever's necessary. So 9 wins on the spin going into the London Stadium. How about that?
There's nothing like. Hey, you're a pro. 1 game at a time, Stel. Come on, it's us fans that get carried away.
I'm not playing. I'm not going to do it 1 game at a time. I said the players and that have got to do it 1 game at a time. I can I can get carried away like everybody.
Ian Birchall, anyone remember ex-Notts youth player Nathan Fox? I think he had a squad number for when we won the league, didn't we, in the Munto? Yeah, he's a member at my gym. I saw him tonight. He is on a high after Buxton won the league and will now be in National League North next season. I think Ben Turner, former centre half, is a coach there or manager or involved with Buxton, I think. They've obviously given it a bit of a go this season, and according to Ian, they have been promoted. Max Seth, yeah, agrees, 20,000 fans. Ian Birchall, I echo Stella's thoughts and said Monday, Villa Park. Chris Giordari, what else have we got? Let's have a look. Okay, midfield dynamics. Harry Arter, obviously been very effective since he come in. Didn't play last night. Probably not one of his better games Saturday. Is his kind of knowledge, now game management, call it what you will, experience, is he still one that you would have anchored in a starting slot at the moment, Stu?
Yeah. So I think certainly with these games we've got coming up, I mean, look, his experience and quality of where he's been in his career speak for themselves. But I think in these games, the only time I would start looking at that would be maybe in the playoffs, maybe against a team that's going to be a little bit more physical and get in and about you. I'm thinking like a Wrexham, maybe a Chesterfield type of team, certainly a Grimsby type of team where, he's going to need to be fully fit and up to speed. They're going to know that he's not going to be the most mobile midfield player in the world, and he's going to use his experience to get by. But I think he's been a fantastic addition, just at the right time when we'd picked up a couple of injuries, maybe. I think he lightens the load a little bit on Matty Palmer.
Mm.
And I think the two of them sort of work well together, have a decent understanding. I think it gives us a control in the middle of the park where you look at Harry Arter and very similar Matty Palmer. I think really a younger version is that you look at players, particularly in National League level, and they are players that they don't fight with the ball. They accept the ball, and it's not taking them 3 touches to get it under control. They don't seem to be fighting with it. Even in tight areas, they're available for it. They want the ball. They're confident enough to have the ball. This is quite a lot of Notts players. Generally, they're happy to have the ball all over the pitch. But you look at the likes of Harry Arter, Matty Palmer, they've just got that bit. You very rarely see them scrapping to get control because they've just had a heavy touch or the touch is just the wrong side. They've got that nous and that little bit of quality that just sets them apart and gives Notts as a team a really good platform that anywhere on the pitch, particularly in the 2 midfield slots, they can be found from anywhere, from a defender, from a fullback, from a striker laying it back. Anybody finds your central midfield players. And if they can keep the ball and retain the ball, accept the ball in tight areas, then it's a great outlet for any team to have. And they set the platform. And I think them two, particularly, and, I was early on, I like Frank Vincent in alongside them. They do need some legs in and around them, of course. But I think the two of them are really good. But Harry Arter, his experience will see him through these games, and he's got the minutes in his legs now anyway. So he'll be no problem for the remainder of the season, I think.
Yeah, Max Seth, isn't Harry Arter's loan technically up after Saturday's match? Wasn't his loan up until May? Yeah, I mean, we've got a few players on loan. You would not expect there to be any issues, I wouldn't have thought, with any of the loans. Yaroslav is playing other than last night. So I wouldn't anticipate, but you're quite right. Each of those loans would have to be extended. But you'd like to think that wouldn't be an issue. It's obviously good experience for the players themselves, and the players as individuals, I'm sure, would want to be staying on. So hopefully no issues there. Bob H. Here's an interesting one, and I'm sure Forest fans would not be happy with this. Odds of Forest, Notts and Mansfield, and nor would Mansfield, to be fair. Forest, Notts and Mansfield going up via the playoffs. Mates of mine at my gym put a bet on a tenner at 500 to 1 earlier this season of Forest, Notts and Mansfield all going up, and his cash out's up to several hundred now, and he's not going to cash out just yet, but that 500 to 1 for a tenner, that is a good bet.
I want to know what his cut-off point though for cashing out is. Is he going to let it run all the way, or what's his cut-off point?
Well, after not slipped to 7th, he was moaning at me, saying, "Well, Mansfield are flying, Forest are flying, so Notts let me down." But obviously,
I want to know what his buyout clause is. How much is he going to take before he cashes out, or is he going to go all the way?
What would you take, Stel? What would your buyout clause be for that bet? So you win $5,000.
Do you know what? I've not really looked at League Two. I don't know how that stands. I don't know what the
in a decent position to automatic, and I don't see them missing out on the playoffs.
For a tenner, I'd let it ride. Because you'd absolutely kick yourself, wouldn't you, if it didn't come in?
Yeah, and presumably the way the fixtures are staggered, Notts is going to be the last part of it, isn't it? And you could potentially argue Notts is possibly the longest odds of the three to do it, given where far. I mean, I don't know about you, and I think Forest have got a great shout now. We all talk about this momentum, don't we? Neil was very good at this at Notts, and when a manager can get a group of players in exactly the right spot, little sweet spot, and everything seems to knock over.
Yeah, I mean, Forest got momentum, haven't they? I mean, since they changed the manager, he's coming in and worked wonders. But I don't know. I don't know as if Notts are the longest odds. But again, I've not really studied the Championship, but I've not really studied League Two either, really, in terms of the table. But I tell you what, it's certainly a live bet, isn't it? That is.
It's a good.
You've got some interest. You've got a lot of interest in that. £10 at 500 to 1. Yeah.
Yeah. David Amy says, think Forest and Mansfield will go up without playoffs. Chris Gosling, take the money now if it's 700. No, it's definitely not that high yet. But obviously Notts moving up to 5th. I've not seen him since last night. What else have we got? Nothing there. Okay. Let's just look right at the very top still. I think everybody, we'd all said Stockport, cakewalk, win it by a mile. They would clearly still be odds on. But Wrexham are 4 points, game extra, but they do have to play them. If you're Stockport, Dave Challoner, are you getting a bit nervous now or not?
I wouldn't have thought so. But I suppose naturally, after a couple of ropey performances or ropey results, automatically you think that it's getting nervous. But then Wrexham go and lose to Woking after being 1-0 up, and I think that takes a load of pressure off. And
it does.
I look at the table and go, well, hold on, we've got 5 games to go, we're 4 points clear, and we've got a game in hand. I don't think that adds too much pressure. Although, I mean, they've got a difficult running on paper. Stockport, they're playing all top teams, aren't they? But no, it would be a choke if they didn't win the league from where they've been. No, it would be a massive choke. So I still expect Stockport to win it. I don't see them failing that badly.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it from a psychological point of view, for me, the ideal scenario would be for Wrexham and Stockport to be like dead level or whatever it is, or both in with a shout of winning the title on the last day of the season. Because then whoever it doesn't happen for, you get the psychology in the playoffs then, don't you? You get that little bit of psychology.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
out within 7 days, mentally they are then prepared. If it goes to the final day, bloody hell,
Yeah, well, yeah, but and again, you want to look psychologically into. I mean, we can look into all sorts of depth, but I'd go. Another reason I like Stockport to actually win it is obviously because we can't. But is Wrexham have got the FA Trophy final?
Absolutely.
So Wrexham are playing in the season as per normal. Then the following, is it the Sunday after the last league game? So it's
the following weekend.
The 15th. The FA Trophy final is the 22nd, if I'm right. And then the playoff is the Wednesday or Thursday, is it, of that following week? And having just been at Wembley in the FA Trophy final, even if they win, I'm thinking, well, okay, they've got a high, but then they've got to bring themselves back down to do it again in terms of the Wednesday or the Thursday. If they lose, they've got the disappointment to get over, and can they pick themselves up for the Wednesday and the Thursday? But it's an extra game, and it's an extra focus. It's a game that will take a lot of nervous adrenaline and focus, playing at Wembley, chance to win a trophy, FA trophy, not the biggest cup, but it's that thing, and they've got to deal with that, and it might just take their eye off the playoffs. So again, that for me, and Bromley have fell off a cliff, haven't they? A bit like Boreham Wood. So they've not got anything else to play for. They're not involved in the playoffs. But yeah, I think Stockport go up. Wrexham have got their eyes on something else as well. I mean, no doubt they've got a big enough squad and a talented enough squad to deal with it. But if you're wanting to look for maybe a 1 or 2% thing that might go in our favour, that may well be it.
Dale Pikett, I'm sure you could verify this if it was needed. I'm sure Dale is correct. Stockport's last 4 are Boreham Wood, Chesterfield, Wrexham, and Halifax. That's not straightforward, is it?
No, tough finish, but they're top of the tree for a reason. It's because they win a lot of games. They won the most games. So, I still expect them to do it. And obviously, just going back to my Wrexham thing there, people are going to say, well, they're not going to play on the Wednesday or the Thursday, but they'll be back in, I think it's the following weekend, isn't it? So
the 2 playoffs are very close. They're only 3 or 4 days apart. They're very close.
Yeah, that's it. So they've got a week from playing at Wembley, win, lose or draw, but they've got that focus. That's what I'm saying. They've got a different focus, and their eyes aren't totally on the playoffs once the season finishes. So it could be a distraction either way.
Chris Gosling, we need Stockport to keep some form as it helps us with the teams they are playing against. Max Seth, I prefer to play Wrexham in the playoffs rather than Stockport. I know we say we can beat anyone, but Stockport are different gravy in my opinion. Ian Birchinall, practical and money-saving tips like Martin Lewis. Martin Lewis of the Magpie Circle. A reminder to anyone who travelled, don't forget to pay your Dartford crossing fee. Don't get a fine like Lee Curtis on the when he did that earlier this season or whenever it was. I think Lee has just about made it back to Lincoln, just about, and just in time to be able to watch Liverpool kick off in 3 minutes 20 seconds or whatever it is. Chris Gosling, if Stockport blow the title, it wouldn't surprise me if they lost their semi-final too. Momentum is such a big part both ways at this time of the season. Ian Birchinall, Torquay last season missed out on automatic and also via the playoffs. Real hangover for them after the end of last season. Okay, well, we've got a Champions League game tonight. Probably more importantly, Stel and I will be going to bed shortly. Thank you ever so much, everyone, tonight. Stel, you will, of course, be there at Aldershot, a nice short trip to Hampshire Saturday. Yeah,
a relative local derby, isn't it, compared to last night? But yes, I'll be there.
Yeah, so will I. I shall be up and down on the train again on Saturday. Hope everyone has a safe journey to Aldershot. I think our final away game, Maidenhead, tickets went on general sale, I think, for that one today. Don't forget, busy weekend, Aldershot on the Saturday, and Dover again on the Monday, when we'll see what musical tracks Knots' PA announcer is playing between 2 and 3 o'clock. Stel, thank you as always for your time. You're going to watch a bit of Liverpool Villarreal now?
Yeah, I might do. And if I can stay awake, get the matchsticks in my eyes and try and keep my eyelids open. Yeah,
excellent. Yeah, I should be watching a bit of it as well. Golf early in the morning if I can get up in time. Max Seth, coach, leaves at 9 a.m. to Aldershot. Does it flipping, eh? 9 o'clock, crikey. Chris Jordan, cheers all. Cheers to everyone. Stel, thank you very much indeed. On that note, good night, and let's hope for another 3 points at Aldershot on Saturday. Good night.